Hey, and you're very welcome to this lecture on the role of protein in the diet and protein quality. Let's jump on in. So my aim here for you, by the end of this lecture, you'll be able to explain the role of proteins in diets and differentiate between complete and incomplete proteins. And this is very important to understand because it's all down to the quality of protein and how this is going to be linked to our desired effects, whether it's aesthetics, muscle building, or muscle building for power production for athletes, or for general health and society reasons if we're going through like calorie deficits and weight cuts as well. So let's jump on in. So quick definition, just so we're all on the same page. Well, what is protein? Well, proteins are large molecules composed of amino acids that are essential for various bodily functions. Just keep note here, this word amino acids is going to come up more in this lecture. It's very important because we have essential and non-essential amino acids, and that will make more sense by the time we get through this lecture for you. We have our macronutrient composition, so it's made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Some contain sulfur, made up of 20 amino acids, of which 9 are essential, which must be obtained through food. So we have to get these through our diet. Typically, 1 gram of protein is equal to 4 calories. Now keep that 9 essential amino acids as a clue. Keep that in the forefront of your mind as we're going through this lecture. Okay, so what are the functions of protein in the body? Well, the big one that we're all probably aware of, being coaches and kind of want to be practitioners, well, it's used for muscle growth and repair. So it's essential for recovery and for hypertrophy, depending how you want to pronounce it. So muscle building, it's essential for it. It's also essential for enzymes and hormones, so it supports our metabolic function, like insulin and hemoglobin. It's also important for our testosterone and our growth hormone to help us build tissue as well. So again, it's a building block, it's a structure and components that we use in our body. It's also used for immune system support, helps us produce our antibodies, and proteins help us fight infection. It's also an energy source if needed. When carbohydrate and fat stores are low, the body can break down protein for energy if needed. Now, this is not ideal. What tends to happen is when we go through severe starvation periods or overtraining issues with athletes, we tend to break down our muscle tissue, which is not good from a power production, it's not good from a aesthetics production, and it's not good from a health term production long term if this is sustained. So key functions of protein, well, we functions on the left, role in the body in the middle, and example on the right. You can pause this video and have a quick look through, and again, you can always go off and do further additional reading from this as well. But the big one for us, kind of for practitioners and performance nutritionists working with athletes, is muscle repair. So we really have to make sure individuals are getting the right protein in terms of quality, as well as the dosage to elicit muscle repair. We're going to talk about muscle protein synthesis and how we actually switch this mechanism on to make sure the body is recovering, because even if our goal isn't bodybuilding and we want to build muscle mass, if we're working with athletes, they have to be able to recover from their sessions so they can train and compete at as best a level as possible day in, day out, week in, week out. And muscle protein synthesis repairs the tissue, and that's switched on by protein in your diet. So it's very, very important. We must not forget about it. Now, a lot of people place too much emphasis on protein, and that's the holy grail. Again, it's dose dependent. This is one of your macronutrients, but it's definitely something in the equation that we don't overlook. Protein digestion and absorption. Well, the process of protein digestion starts in the stomach. So when we consume protein, it's a little bit more difficult for the body to break down. There's a bit more work in the body to get protein broken down to amino acids. So it starts in mastication, in your mouth, when you're breaking down food by physically chewing it. That's the first step. It moves into our stomach, which pepsin breaks down proteins and smaller peptides. Then it moves through into our small intestine, where enzymes break down peptides into amino acids, and eventually that leads to absorption through our intestinal lining. Our amino acids enter the bloodstream and are transported to cells for repair and energy. So there's a bit of work, a bit of a process in this. One thing that's a benefit of this, from keeping you feeling full if you're in a weight loss situation, where people are trying to cut weight and are in a deficit, if they're feeling hungry, increasing protein intake can actually remove that feeling of hunger or blunten it, so it's not as severe for them in a calorie deficit. Now let's look at protein and muscle glycogen. So how protein supports glycogen storage. Glycogen is the carbohydrate stores and energy stores within our actual skeletal muscle tissues and our liver. So consuming protein plus carbohydrates post-workout ensures muscle glycogen replenishment. So the protein and the carbohydrates help transport each other into the muscles. This is very important if you're working with athletes who are training maybe twice a day, or have a hard training session today and another session tomorrow. We want to top up their stores, especially if their training sessions are over 90 minutes. they can deplete their stores. We want to top that back up if they're training the next day, so their quality of their training doesn't drop. Protein also has a sparing effect, so sufficient protein intake reduces muscle breakdown during exercise and also preserves glycogen for energy as well. So again, depending on the athlete, if they're doing very long training sessions or a huge amount of volume during a week, they can actually get a lot of muscle protein breakdown. And if we get the right protein dosage in their diet, this will actually prevent that from happening, which is great. For athletes, and even from aesthetics perspectives, we don't want to be losing muscle tissue from our training. We want our training to stimulate and spike and grow our muscle tissue in the long term. Key takeaway, protein is essential for muscle recovery, repair and metabolic function, but it's not the body's preferred fuel source for energy. That is fats when we're aerobic, and when we're anaerobic, that is our glycogen, which is our carbohydrates. What are complete and incomplete proteins? Well, complete proteins contain all 9 essential amino acids in sufficient amounts, typically found in animal sources like meat, eggs, dairy, fish, poultry. Incomplete proteins are missing one or more of the essential amino acids, and this is where our plant-based proteins come in. So our plant-based proteins are typically found in beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, and grains, but they're incomplete. So if we're working with a vegan or if we're working with a vegetarian athlete, we have to be a little bit more clever and focus on our essential amino acids, because it's a little bit trickier for them because they're removing animal-based products, which is very easy to get all our essential amino acids in through animal-based products. Plant-based stuff, they're incomplete, so we kind of have to compare and blend stuff. So this is where you as a practitioner have to, if you're using protein-based supplements that are vegan, we want to make sure that they contain all 9 essential amino acids. So you want to really read the label and understand what products you're using. There is products out there that have all that covered for you, like Optimum Nutrition's plant-based range is very good. But again, if you're going to pick other brands, just do your homework on the brand. And again, we're blending protein sources together from plant-based options. We want to make sure that we're getting all 9 essential amino acids. So just a little bit trickier, just a little bit more focus is required. So here's a quick table kind of giving you an idea what it's like. So again, complete proteins, any animal-based, rule of thumb is it's going to be complete. Rule of thumb, if it's incomplete, it's going to be plant-based. So plant-based proteins, we take them as incomplete, and therefore we have to blend. So this is where you might see, rice protein blended with pumpkin protein blended with, maybe some chia seeds to try and get that combination of essential amino acids. If you're going for supplement products, just be careful. Like I said earlier on, just double check the labels. They normally will give you a spectrum of all the essential amino acids on the back of protein tubs. So do your homework on it. If it's dietary based, we want to have a combination of nuts and seeds and legumes across a day. So variety is very important here when working with vegan or vegetarian. Vegetarian's not too bad if they'll eat eggs, and again, if they're pescatarian, they might eat fish, but vegans is when it's another level of difficulty for you as a coach and for them trying to get in. So we have to really make sure variety is key here in terms of plant-based protein sources. So what can we do if we're having plant-based proteins in a diet, if we're working with a vegan or vegetarian athlete? Well, we can combine them. So this is where we have to be a little bit more clever as a practitioner when it comes to food suggestions or meal planning. So plant-based protein, we're going to pair them. So for example, we can pair whole wheat bread with peanut butter, for example, lentils and quinoa, rice and beans. You can throw hemp seeds and chia seeds into the mix as well to blend all these in. So you're going to have to combine a few different sources together. It really matters because we want to make sure we're hitting all those 9 essential amino acids. So what I do is look at the 9 essential amino acids. I have a table of each amino acid and its highest food source found in plant-based. And then I just basically make sure that, let's say there's 9 essential amino acids, there's 9 different food groups that they come from that's plant-based, and I try and get those 9 different foods, or like their nuts, seeds, legumes in across the day. And it can be very easy. Like in breakfast, you could throw overnight oats, you could throw hemp seeds, chia seeds in there with some flaxseed, and you can put a bit of peanut butter, and straight away you're hitting 5 of those 9 for that day. So like it might sound more complicated and sound like, geez, there's a lot of food I have to eat, but you can combine stuff and ingredients quite quick. So it takes a little bit of time that way to figure it out. But I'd have a table created for myself personally for my own clinic and when I'm working with them, so I know what foods to recommend. I also can have a look at their diet when I'm assessing it through using my app. I can see then what kind of foods they're missing, and you can get an idea of kind of what essential amino acids that they're missing from their diet. And sometimes then we may use a good quality vegan protein powder or product in as well to kind of fortify and really make sure that their diet's good. And when it comes to protein quality, we have to look at digestibility and bioavailability. So digestible and indigestible amino acids are scored on the DIGEST, which is measuring protein quality. High quality proteins with likes of whey, eggs, casein, and higher digestibility and absorption rates. So when it comes to diets in general, you're going to have some protein. It's not easily to get out of its source. And unfortunately, that's a lot of plant-based stuff. where what's easy to get out and what's high in the bioavailability. Bioavailability just basically means our body can get the protein out of food source relatively easy, and we don't lose a lot of it by excreting it out as waste, is your animal-based stuff. Whey protein is very quick, very fast absorbing if you're looking for that kind of fast absorption protein. This is why it's kind of typically used after training sessions. In terms of protein, we don't want to just eat a load in the one sitting. We can only digest, usually depends on the individual, but we're looking anywhere from 60 grams or so per hour. You can kind of digest maybe a little more, a little less depending on the individual. So we don't want to have huge high quantities of protein in one meal. We want to have it evenly spaced out. So we're looking at having 4 servings of protein a day spread out 4 hours apart, no more. And we're looking at anywhere from 25 to 40 grams of protein per serving. If it's plant-based, we want 40 grams to switch on muscle protein synthesis. If it's animal-based, we're looking at 25 grams to switch it on. So that's what we want to do. Try to get an all-in-one meal, break it out across the day, because if we can keep muscle protein synthesis switched on for 16 hours, it's going to really help with recovery and building muscle compared to someone who might eat it all at dinner and have it switched on for 4 hours. So it's not just about quantity, it's about timing and quality as well with protein. So here are some practical applications when choosing high quality proteins. So if we're working with athletes or active individuals, we really have to kind of step up our understanding of protein, get in their diet. Realistically, you want to have high quality complete proteins for recovery. So animal-based products that are low in fat. So again, be careful when you're having animal-based meats that are not high in fat. There's nothing wrong with the fat intake, but again, just be careful of the calorie budget. So if you go for like a 5% beef mince mix where it's 5% fat compared to something that's 25%, we can easily go over our calorie budget if we're trying to watch our calories with the higher fatty meats. So what I normally like to do is go for your lean meats if you can, and then your fat will come in then from additional source that we can control that a little bit easier as well. Protein shakes, not needed in the diet, only there for convenience. You can get protein in through Whole Foods, no problem. Normally the reason why people use this is just convenience. That's the main thing. They find it hard to get protein in at certain times of day, or they want that convenience factor after training. So again, Whole Foods first always, and then look at supplementing on top. When it comes to vegan and vegetarians, we want to really make sure they're getting all their 9 essential amino acids. So you really want to combine plant-based protein sources. Remember, have a look at all the 9 essential amino acids, have a look at their highest counterpart from a plant-based source, and then make sure that list of 9 foods are eating across the day for most days for individuals. Older adults will require more protein because sarcopenia kicks in, which means the body naturally tends to break down muscle tissue more so than wanting to build it. It favors breakdown more than building up, and a higher protein intake will slow that process down. Remember, the quality of life is directly dictated by the lean tissue an individual has. The more lean tissue they have, we tend to see from the qualitative studies, their quality of life is better and they're at lower risk of disease and longer lifetimes as well. So lean tissue is directly linked to health, and that's directly maintained by good movement, good training, and high quality protein in the diet. Let's have a look at a quick case study here. We're looking at Liam, who's a 25-year-old strength training athlete. So this is someone who could be like a power lifter or someone who's just weight training in the gym. Let's just say it's an individual who's just weight training in the gym and we're doing it for aesthetics. He's doing 5 sessions a week, which are strength and hypertrophy based training sessions. He's 80 kilo, 25 years of age. His protein needs are 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram body weight. From analysing his diet and having a look, he's kind of consuming in and around on average 1.4 grams per kilogram body weight, which is insufficient for his goals, which is basically building muscle tissue. Recommendations are to increase protein intake with high quality protein sources and, importantly, strategic timing, which we're going to get into now. So we're going to have him eat 4 times a day. Why? Well, we want to have 3 to 4 hour gaps between all these meals. We want to have at least 25 grams of protein per serving to switch on muscle protein synthesis. And this is a table here of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a post-training snack of food sources and the amount of protein. So if we look at the food sources, all these protein sources are coming from mainly animal-based sources and some plant-based sources there, like the brown rice, avocado, and quinoa. But most of it is actually coming from plant-based stuff like his whey, his chicken breast, his salmon, and his eggs. If we look at the servings on the right hand side, every serving is over 25 grams or at least 25 grams, which means all those 4 feeding windows are going to switch on muscle protein synthesis. Ideally, we want to have at least a 3 to 4 hour gap in between these. So if Liam can get those foods in, he's getting the right dosages, if he can get the right timing, he will keep muscle protein synthesis, which is the mechanism that builds muscle tissue in the body, switched on for 16 hours across a day, which is fantastic from his goal of building more tissue, as well as fantastic from a recovery perspective as well. Okay, let's look at some summary and key takeaways. Protein is essential for muscle repair, your metabolism, and immune function. So remember, it's not just about building tissue, building muscle. It helps us produce our antibodies, which fights off infection and keeps us healthy and alive. Complete proteins contain all 9 essential amino acids. Incomplete proteins do not. Incomplete proteins are plant-based proteins. Athletes and active individuals require higher protein intake to optimize performance and recovery, and protein quality and digestion will impact effectiveness. So plant-based proteins are less bioavailable than animal-based proteins by nature, so therefore we tend to need higher doses to get more out of it. We also want to make sure our individual that we're working with has a good digestive system. So we can do things which you can research in your own time, like stomach acid tests at home. We can combine the likes of digestive enzymes or other components that can help break down plant-based proteins to get more out of it, so the individual can get what they need, because it's a little bit more difficult in a plant-based world compared to an animal-based world getting your protein requirements needed. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that gets you some more insight on how to work with individuals on a protein-based diet. And above all else, make sure protein is quality, then quantity, then timing. In that order, if you sort that out, you'll be golden with your clients. See you in the next one.